Perspective presents the author's corner.
Sarah, madam, will you read my book? It took me years to write. Will you take a look? It's based on a novel by a man named Lear, and I need a job, so I want to be a paperback writer. Paperback writer!
In the book, you mention a number of contributions that the Horlick family made to Racine, and of course, we have Horlick Field, which I think was property he donated.
Yes.
What were there other contributions they made to Racine that we're not necessarily aware of?
Yes, they probably, well, and when you say not aware of, to this day, there are probably a lot of them that no one's aware of. They really did not want people to know about a lot of their philanthropic work, but they were heavily involved with the Salvation Army, the YMCA. Mr. Horlick gave the land for Horlick High School. That was one of his dairy farms, or part of one of his dairy farms. They gave a great deal of money to St. Luke's Episcopal Church, where the family attended, and they also gave the Alice Horlick Memorial Wing of the hospital and the Alice Horlick, there is a hospital part of St. Luke's, both in memory of their 11-year-old daughter, Alice Priscilla, who died very tragically early on.
You know, getting back to the product a minute, I do remember, as I said, Horlick Malted Milk. And I remember buying it almost as a candy in the tablets. And of course, it was the primary ingredient in malted milk drinks that you would get at a soda fountain. And as you say, now it's a very hard product to find. In fact, I think in the book we mentioned it's not even made in the United States anymore.
Correct.
And by a stroke, I did happen to find Horlick malt here in the United States, and it was in a store in Door County that specializes in products from England, even though this happened to be made in Jamaica. What happened?
Well, the American branch of Horlicks was bought out by the British branch around 1960, and then the British branch was bought out by Beecham, which is a large conglomerate, and then they in turn were bought out by GlaxoSmithKline. So the production in the United States was halted at a certain point, but it is still produced in England and in other parts of the world.
Now, at the time when the Horlick family was big in Racine, there was also other big industrial names that lived here as well. Was there a relationship between the Horlicks and some other big name people in Racine that you know of?
Well, I know that Mr. Horlick and H.F. Johnson worked together to get two public schools built. One was Washington Park High School, and the other one obviously was Wm Horlick High School. And I know that they worked on some other projects together. Racine at one time had 100 family-owned companies, and so it was a different atmosphere then, I think, when these people lived and worked in the community but also owned these companies. And so they had a little bit different approach to giving within the community. It was almost paternalistic, but in a very positive way.
I meant to ask you before, and maybe you answered it already, but as you said, the product is now made in England, and the company is based in England. What do you think was the major reason for the decline of this product in the United States? Why did it lose its popularity?
There are two major reasons. One was that the Horlick family in the United States died out very suddenly and quickly. Within about 4 or 5 years, almost all the family members were gone, all but one. So there really wasn't another generation to take over. But the other thing that was probably more important was that people began to think of the Horlick's malted milk as a malted milk product for confection rather than as a health food. And it changed the whole dynamic of the company and also the perception of the company. And the older people who had been loyal Horlick fans because of what they felt were its medicinal purposes or its therapeutic, I should say, purposes, that generation was fading away, and the newer generation just thought of it as, well, it's something I can get at the soda fountain. But also Ovaltine and Borden's and Carnation started producing malted milk as well. So there was great competition too.
Well, then I think you answered my next question. Are there any Horlick family members left anywhere in the United States, and do they have any contact at all with Racine?
There are, I believe, some probably great-grandchildren. I've not been able to locate them. One of them, his name would have been James Bond, which if you try to Google goes on for about, I don't know how long. I finally gave up. The daughters of A.J. Horlick had daughters, and so I don't know their married names. But someone is still placing flowers on that mausoleum, and I assume that it's a family member somewhere.
This is a mausoleum in Mound Cemetery.
Yes, yes.
It's a beautiful structure.
It is. And Wm Horlick he was not involved in the planning of that. That was planned and built after he died by his children.
Now, when you think of the Horlicks, and now you've researched this book, what was your overall impression of the family? What did you learn, and what did you think was probably their major contribution to Racine? Did you get all that? Okay.
Well, what I learned, I think, was that it's very important to have gratitude. I think gratitude is often a missing element in our lives. And when you look at Wm Horlick High School and the beautiful Horlick Drive that goes along Mound Cemetery, Horlick and Island Park, both of which were given by the family, and so many other things, I think it's important just to remember that these people lived and gave and were very, very generous to this community. And in their memory, we owe them some gratitude, and we should be aware of who they were and just appreciate who they were and what they were willing to give back.
So Wm Horlick, if you had to think of his secret to success or his key to success, what would you say that would be, and his key to success in business?
Well, he was a very savvy businessman, but I'd say probably one of the big keys to his success was his brother James, because James seemed to be the one that had the marketing genius. He even figured out a system where in England, when people were riding the train to commute in and out of London, they had cut out cardboard cows that were out in the fields that people would go past that advertised Horlick's malted milk. Here in the United States, they had 100 telephone operators that called all over the country and asked people if they would like to purchase Horlicks. They had quite a marketing department going, and that seemed to be the main key to the success of the product. Although people believed very strongly in the product. I've had people approach me today that have said they are sure that Horlick's malted milk helped them with different kinds of ailments.
Well, I want to thank Margo again for being with us today. For those of you who want to read this book, and I suggest you do that because it's really a fascinating account of this family, where can they get a copy of this, Margo? And I know the Racine Public Library has copies, but as of yesterday, they were all checked out. So where can they purchase copies of this book?
The book is available at the Racine Heritage Museum. It's also available at the Horlick High School bookstore. It's available at Barnes & Noble in Racine, at the Kenosha Public Museum, and it's also available on Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com.
Well, again, thank you again, and I hope we see all of you again